Hello, my name's Brian. I'm an Agile management consultant, and earlier last year I left the smoke of old London town and headed north. Welcome to glorious Yorkshire. Now I'm using the Agile management practices to get stuff done around the house. We have some grand plans on the roadmap. But plans are nothing. We've actually got to get stuff done. But if agility is just a bunch of silly words to you, then don't worry. Stick around. Just enjoy watching stuff getting done. There appears to be a man at the door with a ladder. This isn't unexpected. I did order a ladder. I ordered a ladder because ever since boarding out the roof space in the garage, access has been by clambering the stepladder and launching oneself off the top. This is not the safest method of access. A dedicated ladder would be preferable, and one has now arrived. Frosty morning, 2.5 degrees on the old thermometer, but got a couple of free hours in which to get ladder up into the garage attic installed. Finally got off my arse and ordered it, rather than just sort of having to scramble up the small step ladder and haul myself in. So that's going to be a good addition. But it does need to be secured into the building so that it doesn't fall over, slip away, all that sort of things. So there's some work to be done here. When I was first looking at ladders, I remember sitting down and trying to work out whether that rung there was going to line up with the rafters. Because if it does, then we can just stick a piece of N10 studding through in order to secure everything. Obviously, it is going to be sitting on the ground here, so that takes the weight. And it'll be resting on a beam that we're putting through there, so that takes the lateral forces, but the studding would stop everything falling out if you lean back on it, securing everything in place. That would be a good thing to do. Okay, something to work on. My initial thoughts were for the ladder to run across the garage, but the kit car gets in the way. Right, they're secured, they're not going anywhere. But what I want to do is, because I do that, I did that. I quite like that. Options. Twisting it through 90 degrees provides access. You do now have to squeeze past the roof truss in order to get up. That seems preferable to clambering over the kit car. So I want to fill this gap through here. I've got some spare sheeting that can do that, and we want a solid bar through there. Now the bar I've got is 3x2, and that distance is 4x2. Maybe I do just pull some of the 4x2 out. After the noggin goes in, it's the all-important mounting bracket. A small piece of 3x2 is cut and a notch formed in order to go round the existing roof truss. That's going to go through there in order to get... Oh, sorry. One side done, now the other. Some scrap timber held at 90 degrees to the roof truss by a small batten. The brackets now stop the ladder moving side to side, and a piece of M10 studding threaded through the ladder rung will stop it sliding down and away. Couple of tasks today. I need to trim that. I need to trim that. And this needs to move somewhere. It's getting in the way. But then I'm going to need to put some degree of padding around that to stop myself bashing me head. Let's get this out first. It's getting in the way. I could use the angle grinder to cut that down. It will get through it in a couple of seconds. It would generate lots of lovely sparks. Straight onto pile of wood and sawdust. Probably not a good idea. Hacksaw job. Oh, hang on. Powered hacksaw. Lovely. Should we try again? I do not like using the saber, bent the blade again. The bracket is removed so that it can be trimmed to the profile of the ladder. Okay. Feels like I should round over that edge there, and maybe the bottom corners. On the top, I guess, just to keep things neat and tidy. Can I hold it solid enough on the bench to actually make this work? It's quite coarse brass, isn't it? Let's use the metalworking tools. That can now go back onto the ladder. That's good. Done. Refitted. The ladder is now secure. That sounded awfully like scope creep. Through the miracle of modern e-commerce, the scope creep arrives next day delivery. The scope creep is that rather than have just a static lifting point, I'd like a movable one. I've sourced some uni-strut, some brackets to support it, and a travelling carriage to fit within the uni-strut. I'll need some noggins between the roof trusses to support things. Time to get measuring. Everything wants to be level, otherwise the travelling carriage will move whilst under load. Measurements in hand, time to start cutting. That's all good. So that means it tripped in the house at the far end. The fire officer would probably have something to say about the escape route being blocked and locked. Hello, world. That's the problem. That one's tripped. When a power tool starts up, there is an inrush current. The inrush current is high in the cold, which is tripping the Type B circuit breaker in the house. I'll need to upgrade to a Type C circuit breaker, which has a higher tripping threshold. It trips out once more whilst cutting the noggins, but eventually they are cut. Aligned against the earlier measurements, it is now simply a case of screwing the noggins into place with some large screws. That worked. Okay, where are we going next? Up and that way. So I'm going to go in like that. Well, that was wrong. There is something wrong with the metal cutting bandsaw. It should not be making that screaming noise. It is not the blade against the steel, it is the machine itself. We endure. The steel is cut. That's it. But you know what it really needs? This scope creep is not on next day delivery, so it gives me an opportunity for clearing up some of the technical debt that has built up as we've been working. Namely, I need to reattach all of the extraction hoses for the CNC router. I need some padding around the top of the ladder. So let's get on with those. I had some pipe lagging left over from insulating the hot water pipes in the loft. It just pushed over the rafter. I was planning on using cable ties to tie it into place, but no, friction is enough. Bump protection turned out to be relatively easy. Extraction hosing next. My first attempt utilised screw-in eyes and cable ties. It works, the hose is up, but the bends are sharp and could kink, restricting the flow. I think I could do better with some printed brackets. First attempt, layers horizontally like that. Peeling off the support, basically it snapped. Second attempt, printed that way. Now the layers are running around, but that corner lifted from the bed as it cooled, it's pulled itself up, and so we've got distortion there. That's what I need to try and fix. This time round, a brim to try and hold the corner down, but it didn't adhere properly, and so it's turning out a bit of a mess. And that corner, because it unhinged, still pulling up. So trying again once more. Fourth attempt. Bed is now level, nozzle spacing is correct, and adhesion is working. Just keep repeatedly printing the brackets. Then it's time for the install montage. That was an error. $220. 220 to 4 is 55. The collar needs another 1/2 mil, if that, in all dimensions. I'm probably making out of the the TPU, the rubber, so it's got a bit of squish to it, and then it'll grip that a lot better. Because at the moment, on such tight stretch, it just keeps popping out. The missing link is getting this down to there. And ideally, there would be a little 90-degree bracket there to send it round the corner. And then I can just screw that in. But that doesn't exist at the moment, and it needs printing. I've designed one, but printing it would be 15 hours and a substantial chunk of plastic. So before I do that, I actually want to test I've got the design right. First thing is to check that I've got the thread right to connect onto here, and then need to check that I've got the right fitting and shape in order to actually connect into the vacuum system. The first test is that I've got the thread correct. Visible demonstration. It works. That's good. That's good. I need to check whether things fit. There are two securing slots within the housing here. This is my first test, and it doesn't fit. 10 degrees off, or something like that. I'd assume that the angle round to there was 45 degrees off the vertical, and it's not. It's something different. So second attempt, second test, and that one does now fit straight on. This is why we test. Each of these, 20 pence of plastic and about 2 hours of time. So fairly minimal. If I'd printed the whole elbow that I'm intending to print, that would have been £2 and 20 hours. Make the mistakes on the test pieces first. And it's a mistake I shouldn't have made, because I printed this. I now have CAD drawings for where these exact slots are and how big they are. Never mind. We can move on now. We can print the full elbow. Overnight, the weather turns. It had been fine when I did a check at 8 o'clock the previous evening, but now it is spaghetti. Whether it was the overnight drop in temperature or just the distance from the heated print plate, I will not know. It is pure waste if I don't learn something from what actually printed correctly. Still, we can do some testing. I was worried that the circularity would be compromised, printing it in layers. But no, that appears like it's going to work. That's fitting. The lug is in there, nice and tight on that ridge there, because I adjusted the sizings. The print nozzle has become blocked, and I can't unblock it. But I do have an all-metal hot end that I could swap in. The extruder drive could do with upgrading, and whilst we're at it, why not convert it to a direct drive system? The 3D printer is dismantled to salvage the parts necessary for the rebuild. At the macro level, it's fairly obvious how it all goes together, but it takes a number of attempts to deduce the sequence in which individual screws should be added to the assembly. Now I need that one. Oh, there's a hole there. I could do that through from the other side, right? Is what it's trying to tell me. I can do that from there, can't I? Yeah. But now I should be in a position to... there's an order to this, and I haven't got it. Hey, finally. That's tight. That's now tight. I can wind that in. That should allow me to tighten that one. Yes. That's tight. And this is where I find that that is threaded, that is not. I need to go in from that way. So I've got to take it all apart again. Whilst I've been messing around with the 3D printer, the materials for the main task have arrived. This leaves me with a decision. Do I complete what I've started on the 3D printer? Because we do like finishing things. Or do I pause that and resume the main task? Main task wins. Of course, this makes the YouTube video more challenging because there are now 2 storylines in motion. But you've all seen enough modern TV thrillers to be able to keep 2, if not more, storylines in your head at once. Right. Rope. So, how's it all going to work? Right, this piece represents the carriage. So, double pulley will be attached to the bottom of the carriage. Those will be attached to either side. If I pull over here, this comes in, this pulls the carriage across, and everything shifts across. If I pull on the other one, which will pull that through, then that shifts across, and that has to follow it. And in doing so, this length here is all the same, so actually the up-down motion won't change. If I pay out the red line, then the length in all of this changes. I'm raising and lowering, and if I pull in the red line, then it changes. That's how it's all supposed to work. The challenge is, how do I get this attached to the pulley block in a sensible manner? Ideally directly. I don't want to have to use some sort of cord just to lash it in place. That seems the wrong way of doing it. But we could do that. I have spare cord around. I was hoping to be able to get those undone. To do that, I somehow need to get all of that. They're hidden in there, aren't they? How am I going to get them out? I couldn't see a better way, so it ends up being lashed on with sash cord. This is not ideal because the pulley can twist. To secure the pulley blocks, I'm going to need some mounting plates that will bolt to the uni-strut channel with M10 countersunk bolts. This will require an absolutely massive chamfer to accommodate those M10 countersunk bolts. much larger than any of my existing countersink bits can provide. So I have to improvise. A 45-degree chamfer router bit. The bearing is too large for the 10mm hole, so it is removed. The router bit is then mounted in the drill press. The drill press doesn't run as fast as a router would, so there is chatter when utilizing it, but it gets the job done. Massive countersinks made. The return plate bolts into place on the unistrut.
Drop them.
Return plate done. Next, it's the downwards diverter plate at the other end of the unistrut.
I had to take account of that bracket, didn't I? So either I take a bit off the front, or I shave a bit off the back. Try again. I'm going to suggest I was worried that the angle meant that the blue rope was going to intersect with the pulleys as it makes its way down. That should be going through the middle. Well, that one was neater than the other two. There, you are now all clear. We'll go in there. Not tangled, not tangled. There. Yay. Right. Well, the good news is that compression means it's not going to pop off. Right. Need to lock this off. Done. That's not moving. That was twisted. Okay. Done. Right. These aren't under load, remember. There we are. Maybe we should sort them out at some point. That one, see. Gently. Avoiding a little bit of swing. So that's secured. Take the weight. Done. We have landed it. Good. So we've successfully made our first lift. We've got something up to the top and onto the loft boards. That's shown up. There are a couple of challenges, notably the pulley itself twisting at the top, which is causing a lot of friction when trying to raise and lower items. That can all be solved in due course, but I'm not going to deal with that right now. Let's declare this done, and we need to get back to the other bits of scope creep that were occurring, namely this.
Lifting mechanics done, I can get back to the other piece of scope creep, the upgrades to the 3D printer. The new printhead assembly is complete, ready for attaching to the printer. Threading the cables through the cable guides was tedious, but other than that, the reassembly went fairly smoothly. The extruder needed recalibrating because the feed wheels are a different diameter. That involved telling the printer to extrude a no measure of material and measuring how much it actually extruded, and then calculating the correct ratio from there and adjusting that in the printer. Calibration done, I set the printer running a small test print to check that everything is working correctly, and then I set it to work on the elbow for the extractor system. Overnight, the temperature remains warm, and the next morning, I do not have spaghetti. This is good. Thanks to the earlier tests, the elbow fits first time.
That's a good start.
The elbow is the last piece of the puzzle, allowing me to complete the extractor system.
That works.
Another item ticked off the backlog. Just one last piece of technical debt to clear before we're done.
I suspect the reason that it is making a loud noise is that something's been dropped here, caused a great dent that is impacting the cooling fan underneath. We shouldn't be running these things with the guard off, but I just wanted to check whether it really was the fan blades hitting the covering. Yeah, okay. That's the noise. That we can fix. All right. Let's isolate this, keep it safe whilst the guards are off, and then go do some percussive maintenance to the housing. Need to knock out there. Usually this will be done on a shot bag. We don't do a lot of metal forming, so we don't have shot bag. But that might act. Just see how well we are doing, if we are doing.
may just have worked. Repaired cover. Marginally dented now. Ooh, something is still rattling, isn't it? It's better. I don't know what it is this time. Let's just... fettled the cover. And now... Oh yeah, green button. Ha-ha! Silence! Perfect. Yeah, good. With that little issue resolved, access to the garage loft, and all of the attendant work that has spawned from that, it's all done.
Is it scope creep, if the scope was never fixed to begin with?
Maybe we're just working out what we need to do as we go along.